She'd since slept with one eye open and her door cracked. So far, no footsteps had tiptoed the hall late at night, and Cinnia's door had remained shut. True to his word, Ballard made certain she and Cinnia were kept busy. The first morning of her stay, Magda had given the two sisters enough time to consume the familiar breakfast of bread sopped in ale before leading them to a storeroom set off from the larder. Inside, twisted bundles of flax tear shared space with baskets overflowing with tow. Louvaen guessed they had stored enough flax to keep an army of spinners busy for months. Unless you're harvesting a small country's worth of flax, this is more than a single season. Magda pushed baskets out of her way to lift a hanging stick of tear from a hook in the ceiling. 3 seasons, and this summer saw a better harvest than most. She pulled one of the braids from the main bundle and passed it to Louvaen. We've enough to do in the winter with the mending, cooking, and making rushlights and candles, along with the usual sennight of laundry. We haven't the time to spin a decent portion of what we've harvested. Louvaen untwisted the braid of flax line and held it in the light streaming in from the kitchen. Her fingers sifted the butter-soft hank of flax. Who hackled this? Magda gestured with her chin to the 2 serving girls hovering in the doorway. Joan. She has a deft hand with the combing and carding. The girl flushed at the praise and turned a brighter red when Louvaen passed the line to Cinnia. Feel. I've thrown silk less soft. It would be a privilege to spin this. Magda lifted a basket of tow and dropped it into Cinnia's arms. We can use aprons, rope, and stockings more than a fine shirt or napkins at the moment, so I need the tow spun. As good as Joan is at the hackling, Clarimond is better on the loom. She can weave as fast as you can spin. She tried to take the flax line from Louvaen, who refused to relinquish it. Would you like me to spin this as well? You'll have yarn to use if his lordship or Gavin needs a fancier shirt to wear in the future. Magda nodded. If you think you can give Clarimond the yarn she needs to weave, spin what you want. She placed the second basket in Louvaen's arms. I prefer a good drop spindle myself, but Gavin's brought home a couple of those spinning wheels. One of the girls will show you where they are. They left their baskets in the corridor for retrieval later, and Cinnia looped her arm through Louvaen's as they followed Clarimond up the stairs to the 3rd floor, and a door recessed into the alcove at the end of the corridor. The rushlight in Clarimond's hand sent shadows scurrying to the corners as she entered the room and stepped aside to wait while the sisters explored. They gasped in unison at their first peek inside. The chamber was no larger than a modest buttery, and just as crowded as the storeroom they'd left, only this one housed things more interesting than flax. Cinnia made straight way to a harpsichord shrouded in dust. Beside it stood a pendulum clock, and a table covered with a variety of storm glasses as well as a vase filled with lead pencils. One corner held 2 spinning wheels, a great wheel, and another that had Louvaen striding across the room. Castle wheel, she whispered. Before his death, Thomas had promised her a castle wheel. He died before he could fulfill his promise, and the burden of her father's debt had prevented her from buying one. She ran her fingers over the frame, caressing the wheel and drive bands. The spinning wheel was as dusty as the harpsichord, but otherwise untouched, as if someone had bought and abandoned it. Magda had stated the wheels were free to use, and she couldn't wait to bring this one out into the light, clean and oil it, and spin her first bit of drafted tear. I know what this is! She was interrupted in her mental planning by Cinnia's exclamation. The girl bent and pressed her eye against the narrow tip of a tubular contraption mounted on a tripod. Rushlight revealed designs of vines and leaves carved into a brass casing made dull with dirt. Louvaen left the wheels and joined Cinnia. What is it? She straightened and Louvaen grinned at the brown circle of grime decorating the girl's eye. They call it a telescope. When you look through this glass, it's as if the stars hover on your doorstep.